Welcome to Pathways Through the Prairie. I am State Librarian Mary Soucie, and today I am talking with my colleague Tammy Kruger. Tammy is currently our literacy specialist. Previously, she was our school library specialist, and Tammy has worked for the State Library for 4 years, and I am delighted for a chance to get to talk to her. So, Tammy, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Mary.
And Tammy, the vision of the State Library is providing pathways to knowledge and opportunities. What was your pathway into the library world?
Oh gosh, well, no surprise, I love to read. I grew up with a mother who loves to read, and so there were lots of stories in my house, right? And then once I figured out how to do that skill, the library was just so amazing to be able to have all these opportunities and all these resources that didn't cost me anything. That was probably the best part, honestly, because I would have gone broke. Basically, my public librarian was amazing, and my school librarian was amazing, and so I got to really get to know these women and really get to know those buildings, and I thought, I would like to do this when I grow up. So that was just sort of what slid me right into there.
Nice. And so many people came to librarianship as a second career or a third career. Like you, when I was a kid, I wanted to teach, and then I wanted to be a librarian. So did you have a first career before you became librarian?
No, I figured that I would probably teach and be a librarian, like kind of a half and half sort of situation. My undergrad is in elementary education, and then I had a library minor put onto that. As far as the whole second career aspect is concerned, especially when I started in my early 20s, a lot of people were very confused. There's a lot of questions of where's the actual librarian. This was the first choice.
That's awesome. And what do you love about being a librarian?
I love that I get to learn so much, and I get to teach other people so much, and you have such a wide variety of people you get to interact with. I've worked in a ton of different types of libraries, and so I've gotten to see the different age groups and the different concentrations and stuff like that. It's just been, for someone who's a lifelong learner, it's been really cool.
That's awesome. Has there been anything surprising about working at the State Library or in a state agency?
Well, we're in the state agency. So my job is the most office-like library I've ever been in. And that did take a little bit of adjusting. But at this point, it's good. I just had to kind of figure out this isn't the same vibe as like the school libraries where I came from or the public libraries.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We do have books, yes, but they're not the same variety that a public library has or a school library has. And we do have patrons walk in, but not as often as you do when you're in a public or a school library. So tell us a little bit about what you do as a literacy specialist.
Okay, so a big part of my job is promoting literacy across the state, go figure. And so like currently I am working on a financial literacy kit, and that is to teach lessons for different age groups. So it's K through second, third through fifth, teens and adults on financial literacy, because a lot of our country has difficulties with that. Mm-hmm. So it's to create kits, it's to help with purchasing things for Libby. So anyone who's fans of ebooks or audiobooks, please hit me up if you have any requests. It's also to help promote like the literacy programs that go on throughout our state and like our authors throughout the state as well. Mm-hmm. So if you had the privilege of being able to take part in one of the Great Reads authors visits this year, you know, those were fantastic. We're hoping to continue to expand that. But yeah, that's a big part, just that literacy piece.
Mm-hmm. And what do we mean when we say literacy?
Oh, literacy encompasses so many things. So we think about traditional literacy, like reading and writing, right? But you have financial literacy, you have climate literacy, you have like social emotional literacy. It's basically just being in tune to these different things and learning how to kind of interact with them effectively. So yeah, that's been another part of the piece, is sort of expanding beyond just the reading, writing aspect that I think is so often what's tied into libraries.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Is there a literacy that we haven't developed yet that you're hoping to be able to develop?
Well, I think we... Kind of yes and no. We've had that discussion about the information, right? Like the misinformation, the disinformation. I think that will be really interesting, but also quite the challenge. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I think it's so valuable.
Absolutely. And what's the difference between misinformation and disinformation?
So, misinformation is basically when you're given information that is not correct. However, it's not done in like with malice. It's just literally people don't know. Disinformation is when there's actually a purpose behind misleading people. Propaganda,
It's intentional.
for example, it's intentional. Yeah.
What have you enjoyed most about transitioning from school library specialist to literacy specialist?
I love that I get to work with a bigger group of people.
Okay.
You know, school librarians were my beginning, you know, and I love that group, but it's nice to be able to be like, hey, public, let's hang out for a little bit, or, you know, even tap into academic a little bit, stuff like that. So that was a big push to be able to kind of increase my pool of people I can bug, I guess.
Or work with.
Work
Let's
with,
say
yes,
work
we'll
with.
say that.
That's really funny, Tammy. So you said when you were growing up, like you knew you were going to be a librarian. Was there a specific type of library you thought you'd work in?
I just knew I loved libraries. Like I said, I've worked in a variety of types. I've been school, I've been public, I've been collegiate, I've been medical. I've been kind of across the board. I figured probably school just because of that teacher aspect, but it wouldn't have bothered me any time to be a public either.
Which have you enjoyed the most?
They've all had their own challenges and their own, like, this is so cool moments.
Okay.
You know, school, I really liked working with teachers when I was able to have the opportunity to do so and be able to supplement their lessons with stuff with the library. Public, you have, you know, people literally from birth all the way up to 100. I remember when I was working at Bismarck Public a handful of years ago, we had a patron come in, and her daughter was 2 weeks old, and she's like, this is her first visit to the library. I'm like, this is so cool.
That is so cool.
You know, and so that was fun. And like when I did medical, I learned so much about the human body and our healthcare system. Some of it was really neat. Some of it was like, well, that's annoying, but now I get it.
And so in the medical library, were you helping doctors, patients, nurses, all of the above?
So basically how that worked was I was located at the School of Nursing here in Bismarck. So I had both nursing students, and then I had like the doctors and the nurses up at Sanford for the most part. Some from St. A's would use me as well. So I got to help with more of the kind of college library stuff for the students. And then I got to help do, I want to say they're called literacy reviews or literature reviews, for the doctors and nurses, which that was kind of cool. I actually had one physician, I have no idea if he still works there or not anymore, and I guess it doesn't matter, but he worked in cancer. And he would ask for these things that were just so off the wall, but he was trying to be able to prove to the insurance companies of why they should pay for these treatments, right?
Oh, sure.
And so I'd be looking up, and I'm like, do you mean this? Da, 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 you know? So that was cool to be able to see both people who are just kind of beginning in those careers versus people who've been there for a long time and really know their craft.
Oh, yeah, that's really cool. And so in every one of those instances, you were making a huge difference in people's lives.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of librarianship, honestly, is making a difference in people's lives.
I agree. What do you think people would be surprised to find out about libraries in 2025? What types of materials do they have that people probably don't know that they have? Either the state library or just libraries in general? What type of services do they offer?
So libraries in general are there to help whatever communities they serve, right? So they do offer a ton of services beyond just, well, you can access the internet here, or hey, we have a bunch of books, you know? And what I would really recommend is check out your local libraries and see what they have. For example, Bismarck here, they have games you can check out. That's fantastic, and it's free family fun, right?
And fishing poles.
And fishing poles. You know, Mandan, they've done these like orchestra things where they come in and they do it by candlelight. How cool is that? I got to walk over there and just listen to this beautiful music, you know, and just go ahead and check out what you've got going on in your library.
Minot Library checks out tools.
Yep.
And Jamestown Library has a big collection, is the public libraries I happen to be talking about, a big collection of kitchen tools. So I know they have, like, you can check out an Instapot if you want. Just before you purchase one, you can check it out and see if it's going to work for you. So libraries really do meet the needs of the communities that they serve, and that's one of the beauties, one of the things I love about being in a library. I've been in the libraries a long time now, a little over 30 years, and thinking about what it was when I started. And so when I started in libraries, we still had the physical card catalog and the cards and all of that. To now, I can pull my phone out and look something up at my local library and put it on hold or read on my phone. And so one of the things that you do as literacy specialist is you help build the ebook collection. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so basically, we use Libby as our format. Some people call it Overdrive. It's under the same company, basically. And so we are in a consortium where a whole bunch of different libraries can borrow, kind of from one another's collections, for lack of a better term. And so we go through and we order ebooks and audiobooks, and we try to hit a bunch of different interests and things like that. When you do request a book, you might end up on a waiting list, and we're trying to kind of bring down those numbers a little bit. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just part of adding the collection, and adding a collection that's very accessible, because you don't have to worry about being able to access the print. And then, of course, if you are someone who'd rather listen to your books, audiobooks are an awesome option. I know a lot of people who travel a lot love audiobooks.
Mm-hmm. As well as e-magazines.
And yep.
Also, which I don't like to read the magazines on my phone. I prefer to read them on either a computer or on my iPad, my tablet, and you can do all of those, which is wonderful. You can do that with the audiobooks as well. I'm a huge audiobook. I love audiobooks. I'm a huge audiobook reader now. What would you say to someone who says listening to a book isn't reading?
I do not agree with that. And this is coming from someone who much prefers to read. I much prefer to read print. But to me, you're still getting the gist of it, right? You're still getting that story, and you're still getting that information. And for some people's lives, it just makes so much more sense. Mm-hmm. Now, I will admit, part of why I love print is because it requires me to shut everything else down and just be in the moment. But I know people who love to listen while they drive, or they love to listen while they clean house, or they love to listen while their kids are going absolutely crazy.
Right, yeah. Or they like to listen in the shower,
yeah, exactly.
Or wherever. I mean, an audiobook can go anywhere mm-hmm. with you, really. And do you tend to read physical books, or do you tend to read ebooks, or are you a mix?
I like physical books more. However, I am transitioning more into ebooks. Part of that is just the accessibility factor, because they're easier to get a hold of. And part of that, honestly, is because of this job, and I never really thought about it.
I love that. And I'm an ebook reader just because I travel. And it is much easier for me to bring 20 books along on my tablet than to bring 20 books along in my suitcase. Yeah. And so I love that format for that reason as well. And do we have ebooks for all ages?
Yes, we do.
And one of the other things you work with are our kits. Mm-hmm. So we have STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. We also have some STEAM, which is a STEM kit with an A for art thrown in. Do you have a favorite STEM kit?
So I think I might be one of the few people that this is their favorite, but it's just the way it is. We have this... It's a board game that teaches coding. It's called Robot Wars, okay? And so you have cards, and you have little robots on the board, and they have to move according to how the card dictates it, like you would in coding, right? And it's so funny because the amount of people that get stuck in the corner and get so frustrated until they finally figure it out. I love the aspect of the STEM coding that isn't connected to a device. Mm-hmm. And so that's probably why I like that game so much. Plus, it's just kind of fun to pick on people for getting stuck in the corners.
And it's learning without someone realizing you're teaching them.
Yep,
and so
exactly.
it's a more accessible learning sometimes when people don't realize you're teaching them something. My favorite is Cosmo. Cosmo is a little robot that you can dance with. You can also play rock, paper, scissors. And Cosmo is sassy, and when he beats you at rock, paper, scissors, he makes fun of you, and I love that. And we have some outdoor kits as well. Are you familiar with outdoor kits? Can you share what some of them are?
I am to a degree. We have giant dominoes. We have, I don't think it's actually called Yahtzee, but it's basically Yahtzee, yep, okay. Anyway, yes, we have a wide variety of them. We also have outdoor exploring kits, which I think are so cool. So if that's something that you'd be interested in taking, camping, for example.
And what might be in an outdoor exploring kit?
They have binoculars, and they'll have compasses in there.
Telescope.
Yep.
So that might be fun. If you're camping and it's a super bright, starry night, that would be really cool to take the telescope with you. And those are available to anyone with the North Dakota State Library card at no cost. Unless, if you're not in the Bisman area, you do have to pay to mail it back. But, yeah, that's... So, Tammy, when someone says to you, we're at the State Library, I've never heard of the State Library, what do you do? What's your answer?
So my response usually, have you been to the Capitol? And then they're like, yes. And I'm like, have you been to the Heritage Center? And they go, yes. And I'm like, we're right in front of them on the loop.
I always say we're the big building with the columns.
Yes, but then I got argued with about that, Mary, the other day, because they said that the Heritage Center also has columns, and I was trying to think if they did or not.
Yeah, inside the newer part, like in the lobby area. So I guess I'm going to have to say we're the building with the outside columns. That's funny. And then what do you tell people you do? How do you describe your job in a...
So usually, when I was a school library specialist, it was pretty straightforward. Like, I'm like, and they're like, oh, you work with school librarians. That makes sense. When I tell people that I'm a literacy specialist, they usually go, I'm sorry, what?
Right.
What does that mean? So then I just sort of explain that we want to address a bunch of different literacy needs across the state. And then I talk about, the reading and writing aspect. But I'm like, there's a bunch of other stuff too. And so we want to just basically help make more rounded, individuals here in North Dakota. And we want to be able to provide resources for that. So
that's great. So, Tammy, what is one takeaway that you want the listeners of this episode to know about the State Library?
Basically, the State Library is here to serve the libraries of the state and patrons that otherwise are not really served by a library of the state. We should be a go-to for you if you need help with even just a sounding board of things, or you need help with resources, things like that. I know that you, Mary, like to travel and hang out and help out in the physical libraries. We're just we're here for you. Like, that's the reason why we exist.
Right. Yeah, one of my favorite parts of my job is librarian for a day, where I get to go out and spend the day at a local library doing whatever they need help with. So you're right. Thanks for giving me a shot to give a little plug to Librarian for a Day. So librarians, if you're listening to this, you can contact Brianne, Cheryl, or contact me directly, and we can schedule a visit out to your library. So, Tammy, when I'm talking to librarians, I never say what's your favorite book, because quite frankly, we can't pick just one. But what is a book that you've read recently that you really enjoyed and you enjoy telling people about?
Okay, so a book I read recently is called Small Spaces. It's by Catherine Orden, okay? It's a middle grade novel. I'm just going to say that, all right? It's meant for like sixth graders. I am not ashamed of that.
You shouldn't be.
But I am not a horror fan by any stretch of the imagination. I have a very vivid imagination. It's not good for me. But it is technically a horror book. And so the idea is that there's this like dark being. I don't know if he's technically considered a demon or whatever. He's a dark being. And he traps people into scarecrows. And so these kids are on this field trip to a farm. And the woman of the farm, she had made a deal with the, for lack of a better term, bad guy, to be able to save her farm because she was going out of business or whatever. But in exchange, she had to give up people's souls and be trapped in these scarecrows, right? And so she volunteered to give these kids to this other creature. It is so good. And the only way to escape them is to find small spaces because they can't get you there. But yeah, so that's the book I keep on plugging. And I told Brianne she has to read it, and she still hasn't.
And so for those of you who don't know, Brianne is another colleague that works with us. She is the director of the podcast. And so that was a pointed statement at Brianne to read this book. So, well, Tammy, it was super fun to hear about your journey into the library world. We're very glad that you are here with us in the library world. Thank you so much.